So some big breaking news as we kick off this amped up for Thursday, the 12th of February 2025. Hunter Hearst Helmsley attending Linda McMahon's Senate hearing. Of course, President Donald Trump choosing Linda McMahon to run the education department. Her big hearing was today. Hunter Hearst Helmsley was there throughout, front row, supporting Linda McMahon. There was a lot of protesters inside the hearing room. So while this is going on and Linda McMahon is being asked all these questions from the Senate, all of these protesters were screaming out, and they would wait about 5, 10, 15 minutes. So it was nonstop throughout the entire proceedings. So eventually, Hunter Helmsley had enough. Shane McMahon was also there in attendance, right next to, I believe, his wife. So it was Stephanie, Hunter, Shane's wife. Shane McMahon looked at Shane, Shane looked at Hunter, and as these protesters are causing a disturbance, Hunter stands up and he says, "If you don't like Linda McMahon running the education department, we got 2 words for you." And as the protesters are going, Hunter just lets out a "suck it." It was legendary. Hunter was then escorted out of the room via officers and security. Protesters were chasing after. Stephanie looked like she was about to spear somebody. She ran off. Shane McMahon's trying to pull people off. It was a pull them apart brawl at these proceedings. Linda McMahon's Senate. I'm just kidding. I'm playing. BC's got jokes. I'm joking. I'm kidding. That did not happen, guys. That didn't happen. That's the creative department of World Wrestling Entertainment. What it should be, right? That's we're getting a little creative with what actually happened. That is a true story as far as Linda's Senate hearing was today. That part is true, guys. Also, the part that is true, Hunter Helmsley was there in attendance. So if you're wondering, was he, working on tomorrow's SmackDown show like we're hoping, right? Mania season has to feel like it because it doesn't right now. If you were wondering, is he, focusing on that? Is he in Stanford right now? Boardroom table, smart people around him. And they're talking about tomorrow's SmackDown. They're talking about all these things that need to be ironed out for WrestleMania. The answer to all of that is no. He was there supporting Linda McMahon, which is an honorable thing. That's nice. I'm pretty sure Shane, Stephanie, Linda, more than anybody would have been just fine if Hunter said, "Listen, we got Mania. You know how important this is. You know how this is. We have a lot of work to do. It does not feel like Mania season now. Do you mind if I just go to Stanford? Do you mind if I just put in the work?" Shane's going to be there. Stephanie's going to be there. I'm pretty sure Linda McMahon would have been just fine. But as if Hunter doesn't have enough distracting him right now to take his focus off of Mania. All of the advertisements and the promos and the commercials that he puts himself in, the Hall of Fame, which is going to take so much time, energy, and focus away from creative for Mania. He's got the Hall of Fame. And now Linda McMahon's Senate hearing, and that's how he spent his the bulk of Thursday. So, no, Hunter, it was wild. I see this Linda McMahon thing pop up, and I see the front row. I'm thinking, wait, is that Hunter Helmsley? Like, what is this dude do? I understand support, but, oh my, we joked about it. I joked about it several weeks ago. I started to say, I'm starting to see more Hunter Hearst Helmsley now that he's in his 50s and retired basically as a pro wrestler. I'm seeing more of him now than I ever did in the Attitude Era, it feels like. It was a joke when I said that. Now I'm literally starting to feel like I'm seeing this dude on just everything. Commercials, advertisements, headlining the Hall of Fame, Senate hearings on the cable news stations. I mean, Hunter Helmsley, man. My version would have been, there was no suck it, no suck it's, guys. There was no I got 2 words for you. Hunter and Shane didn't clear house. But my version is much better, I feel. Mine's a lot more creative than what actually happened. A lot of boring questions, a lot of boring responses. Shane McMahon and Hunter Helmsley, again, that's a true story. They were there in attendance. They both looked like they were about to fall asleep the entire time. And also a true story, there was a lot of protesters and stuff. So it did look like Shane and Hunter were getting very annoyed, very aggravated, but they did not. There was no pedigrees handed out to the protesters, and there was no Shane McMahon flying elbows from the top of the ceiling or ceiling fans, nothing like that. So Stephanie McMahon didn't give a Stephanie smack to anybody. All right, we're going to move on. I don't want to bore you guys with politics. Ew, politics, cooties. Let's go over to the big. Well, actually, before we get to the big story, WWE buying TNA, what BC feels is actually going on. You guys remember, it's not a pat on the back or validation, but I was one of, if not the first one to tell you many months in advance before WWE actually sold. I told you guys every decision that was being made, every move, like it's like this master chess match was strategically leading toward WWE selling. And I told you guys every move, and I was breaking it down like in business. This is what happens, and don't be shocked. It's imminent. And sure enough, WWE ended up selling. So I'm going to tell you guys what I feel is going on now with these moves with TNA recently. And we'll hold nothing back. I'll tell you guys my full, blunt, amplified honesty on what is happening. That's coming up in just a few minutes. I want to talk NXT AEW. I did not get to see both shows in totality. NXT, I saw nothing. No NXT. So imagine the surprise when I heard that Ricky Starks had shown up. Of course, we knew he, Miro, Malachi, they were all released, let go, freed, whatever word you want to use, from All Elite Wrestling finally. We're hearing Phoenix is still locked up over there for now. That's what we're hearing. But Miro, Malachi, and Ricky Starks were free to go. And no 90-day clauses, nothing like that. But it still was just shocking that he would not just show up to NXT, I'll get to that in a minute, but because it's in the midst of all these releases. And this is just a horrible time to bring somebody else in, right? Because one of the big things that WWE tells you, it's just budget cuts. It's not you, it's us. It's like a bad breakup on Valentine's Day, right? It's not you, it's us. We're just not ready, right? So that's what they tell these talents. The money's not there. It's budget cuts. It's just business. I hope you understand. We're just downsizing, right? That's how you kind of sell individuals. Although with Hunter Hearst Helmsley, they don't even get told what it is. At least with Vince, they're just like budget cuts, even though it's bullshit, right? They would usually do these releases right after they announced record revenue. And then they're like budget cuts. But at least they give you a reason. I mean, you have people like Baron Corbin, who's like, literally, he's like, it bugs me to the point still to this day that I just was never given a real reason. I thought Hunter was in my corner, but I've never been given a reason as to why. He's never let me know. They just leave you in the dark. They're just like, we decided not to renew your contract, or we're letting you go. All the best in your future endeavors. No, nobody knows what's up. Dijak recently says he has like post-release PTSD or something like that. Because these wrestlers don't know exactly why. But usually you're told like budget cuts, something like that. So you have all these releases, right? Like a dozen. And then all of a sudden they just bring in Ricky Starks like nothing. It's like, and then we found out, obviously he had a contract, but then earlier this morning, right before we started recording, about an hour and a half maybe, we found out he didn't indeed sign a long-term contract with WWE. But it's like, it's the worst optics in terms of timing, and this company has lost track of optics. This company has lost track of reading the room. Give it a minute, man. There's no reason that there's no reason that Ricky Starks would have to debut on NXT in the middle of February. Zero reason at all. You want him to be a big part of Vengeance Day. Well, you know, if you're going to make a big splash, why not have him debut at Vengeance Day? There's There's a crazy concept as well. It was just wild that I was hearing that he debuted out of nowhere. It's not, some people are kind of putting this to like Lex Luger, when Luger was with WWE on a handshake deal, and then all of a sudden he wound up on WCW. Much different star power. Hopefully Ricky can get to that, even Luger level. But that was much different, and he was on a handshake deal. Whereas Ricky Starks was not. He was told, you're good, you're free, you don't have 90 days. So it's not like we didn't know he couldn't show up. We never thought that would happen, especially with the releases. That's the biggest shocker. Now you go to where he went, NXT. That's interesting, because with somebody like Ethan Page, you can get away with that. Ethan Page still has to show a lot of people who he is, what he's capable of, what he can achieve in that company. I think that was a good place for Ethan. And then they catapulted the dude to the championship. A lot of people turned and said, all right, this Ethan Page is the real deal. With Ricky Starks, there was a little bit more name value, a little bit more story behind his situation. So you're basically saying you're going to have him repeat the Ethan Page journey, right? Because if Page can collect the championship that quick, then Ricky Starks would have to. On top of that, what now happens to Ethan Page? Because is his story just done now? He got the championship, he lost the championship, tried to get it back. This whole quest almost is in a ditch now. And then you have Ricky Starks come in. Are you now oversaturating your developmental brand? This is supposed to be all the young up-and-coming kids and their promo classes and trying to get some spotlight, right? On the shows on Tuesday night and the PLEs, pay-per-views. But, I mean, you're having all of these big stars coming over. The titles obviously have to go to them. Bayley is clogging up a women's division. Ricky Starks and Ethan Page are clogging up a world title scene. And in the process, Oba and Trick Williams, they can get a touch of the gold, right? I'm just asking questions, guys. It's a very interesting place to put Ricky Starks. Ethan, I see. Ricky, I don't. I don't see Ricky Starks. I just feel if you're going to have this dude show up, he's a main roster guy. Because I see him clogging an avenue that doesn't need to be clogged, man. There's too many talents in NXT right now. Main roster, too, I get it. But NXT, I mean, they're just oversaturated. I started to think that just a couple weeks ago, like, what do you honestly do with Ethan Page right now? Eventually, he's going to have to get Das Boot from the title scene. You better have good stories lined up, because he should be a main event guy. Now you just clogged it even more with Ricky. I hope these concerns with this type of booking and putting him there, I hope it makes sense. They're going to run into an issue where there's just not enough spotlight spots. And you need them for people like Ethan and Ricky, but you also need them for the up-and-comers or the people that are established, the Trick Williams, the Obas, unless some of them are getting called up. So I did not see NXT. I was absolutely floored when I was like, whoa, I had to do a double take. Like, did they just pop Ricky Starks out of nowhere on Tuesday night? I don't know exactly what that says about how they look at Ricky. I told you guys there was no doubt. I said this many moons ago. There's no doubt he's WWE bound. The second we saw him backstage was like the Rumble or Mania, one of the two. And we saw him through the security footage backstage. And I said, that dude, that's where he always wanted to be. And he's one of Cody's best friends. And Cody, we have seen time and time again, if you're a good friend of Cody, he's bringing you over. That's just how it is. We saw one of his good friends, Ethan Page. And Ethan Page left AEW and he had a place right there in WWE set up. A lot of people, that was not on their their checklist, right? Ethan Page showing up out of nowhere to WWE. No, that's Cody's good friend. There's no doubt he was gonna. Jade Cargill is one of Cody's biggest supporters and really good friends. Jade Cargill knew she wanted out of AEW and had a home right there in WWE. Cody Rhodes made sure of that. Ethan Page, Jade Cargill, Ricky Starks. I have been telling you guys months and months now, that's his circle. And they're all in WWE. The writing was on the wall. The second Cody went to WWE, all of them, mentally, they were checked out. And look what happened, guys. The second Cody was out, all of a sudden, Ethan Page, we started hearing all this drama between him and Tony. He just doesn't want to be there. Ricky Starks, all this drama. He just doesn't want to be there. Jade Cargill, drama, doesn't want to be there. They were mentally checked out. Cody's like, dude, come over here. I already talked to Hunter. You're in. But Ricky Starks showing up in NXT, I don't get it. Now, I know, right? BC's going to work his way up. We'll see what he's got. Get people used to him that don't know him, don't watch AEW. I get it, guys. It's the same thing we said with Ethan Page. But is this the new thing? And if so, you got to be careful not to oversaturate it. Ethan Page hasn't completely ran its course yet, because what do you do with him now? You just boot him over to the main roster. And now Ricky is going to take that spot. I hope all this makes sense, guys. When I hear something like that happened, I just go into overdrive on how do you now book this? And you have to think that way, because if you don't, you're in a situation where we are right now with WWE, where nothing makes sense. And it looks like every decision is being made by the minute, by the second. And that's because it is. What more proof do you need? Jey Uso was telling you he found out he was winning the Rumble hours before. And some people are trying to Hunter knew, though. There's a report saying that Hunter actually knew over a month before. No, he didn't. And he just happened to bring everybody in the room hours before to fuck with him. Surprise! You're not going to win it, John. And you're not going to win it, Punk. You're going to get it, Jay, in 3 hours. Good luck. Everybody out of my office. What kind of joke is that, man? If you want to surprise Jey Uso, do it when you find out you made the decision. What the fuck? He didn't just call everyone in hours before because he knew about it a month and a half before. No, he did not. There's no way. Or that would be the dumbest botch in the history of the business by Hunter Helmsley, because then he still would have proceeded to have booked Jey Uso and Gunther at Saturday night's main event to have Jey Uso lose flat on his back looking up at the lights, just to have him win the Rumble a week later to get to the same match at Mania. What? So you better hope Hunter didn't know a full month in advance. Jay says he just found out the hours before. Ricky Starks just got his actual release finally, and he's popping up in NXT. You don't want to think about this? You don't want to go, oh, we got Ricky Starks officially. Let's come up with a long-term plan. Let's sit on this for a minute. No, they're just like, oh, he's with us? Bring to NXT. That'll be a little shock moment. Try to pump up the CW rating by 10, 15,000 fans. So odd. This company just does the most random shit last second, time after time. We don't have an official name yet. There was no real introduction. From what I'm hearing, again, I didn't see this, but from what I'm hearing, multiple reports, he did not say. He said, like, you know who I am, and if this is the place for all the young talent in the future, I should say, then there's nobody brighter in the future for this business than yours truly. That's a paraphrase. But he never actually said his name. So, is he going to be Ricky Starks? I really hope so. I hope they're not planning on screwing with the name. Does Tony Khan have that name? That's another interesting concept. I don't think so, because he was wrestling on the indies while in this dispute with Tony, and he was able to use Ricky Starks, but he was still under contract. So that's another interesting thing. What will his name, what will he be going by? But I was not able to see NXT. I did not even see his debut yet. I just knew you guys were wondering my thoughts on it. We're doing it amped up. I've been extremely busy to the point where I have not even been able to see Ricky Starks' debut. I mean, that sucks. But that's how busy we've just been. And this is my free time, and I want to make this amped up for you guys. So I know you'll be interested in my thoughts on it. Why I did not see it yet. I did not see it yet. I had to at least speak on it. I know about it. That's my thoughts on it. That's Ricky Starks. Dynamite. I have to speak on this. I did not see it in totality, but I was able to see enough of it while doing a plethora of other side business. Main business. The side business was trying to catch some Dynamite. But I caught enough to see a few things that I actually liked. Now, I know in the community, it seems like AEW is done, right? Because that's what you're hearing by everybody. There's no hope for them. They're done. It's the worst product in wrestling history. There's no coming back from how low they have sank. But BC saw some good things last night, and I'm going to tell you about them. So last night, Dynamite, Dustin Rhodes, man, had a really good match with MJF, Maxwell Jacob Freeman. And it's not a shock to me. I've been telling you guys, if you're a faithful veteran subscriber / channel member, you guys know Dustin Rhodes, I support him on some of the highest of pedestals I can honestly place somebody. Still at his age, Dustin Rhodes, I truly feel, is one of the best wrestlers on the planet, guys. And I'm not talking flips, dives, or being able to go like he can when he was 25. But just checking off every box, making you feel something. I still think Dustin Rhodes is just so great. And he's so natural at it, right? Natural Dustin Rhodes, go figure. No pun intended, but he's natural at it. He's flawless. I always say it's the best scoop slam in the business. I always tell you guys, Randy Orton, Dustin Rhodes, when they send you into the ropes and they just scoop you for the slam. Nobody does it as flawless as Randy Orton and Dustin Rhodes. Samoa Joe has a good one too. But Dustin Rhodes, he did it yet again last night, and he had that crowd hot throughout that entire match. It was the right call, I understand. MJF could not lose that. But I hope this opens up everybody's eyes, including Tony Khan. This dude has another massive run in him. This is not a Jeff Jarrett situation, guys. I assure you. Dustin has a run in him that could captivate you. And he was just recently talking about how, you know, he's kind of the one left out. Dusty left his legacy. Cody came out of nowhere and has conquered WWE. And Dustin's just the guy who just still has not got that title. And he understands that there's more years behind him than in front, but he still wants it. The Jeff Jarrett storyline didn't go anywhere. It did not move the needle. It did not make people believe in it, sadly. Dustin probably should have had that storyline. Not yet, and not like this. But in the future, if they ever decide to do something with Dustin, man, and him actually getting that title, yeah, not only will I be okay with it, I will be more than okay with it. I will be absolutely ecstatic. I will spend a great deal of time on that match and that moment if that ever happens. I truly feel Dustin needs a big run left. He's got it in him. He deserves that. I hate that word in pro wrestling, but Dustin, if anybody, and a world championship. Man, he showed you last night in this match, guys. And it was really good just not to see MJF mixing it up with Jeff Jarrett, right? It would just get off the television, man. And Dustin showed you how it's done. It was actually really good to see MJF mixing up with Hangman Page. They had a really good backstage segment. Hangman's like, get out. I have something to say. Maxwell's like, what'd you just say to me? Hangman's like, just get out. I don't have time for you right now. And Maxwell just left a scathing promo on him. So then, was it after this match? I think it was after the Dustin match. Hangman comes out and they just start brawling. It was a pull him apart brawl, but it ended up like in the stands. And then MJF worked his way back to the ring, got on the mic. And he's like, you won't come back out here. You won't come back out here because you're a coward, did you know? And Hangman's like, oh yeah? Hangman comes back and they started off again. But it was just good to see, like, you know, MJF have this match with Dustin and then this beef that he has with Hangman. I didn't realize how much this Jeff Jarrett MJF thing was just bogging down everything. I wouldn't have minded the storyline. Jeff Jarrett just doesn't do it. It's unfortunate, guys. But that's why, whether it's a TNA or the last days of WCW, in WWF a couple of times, it just didn't work with Jeffrey Jarrett. He's a mid-carder. Sometimes that's what you're supposed to be. That's just what you are. You get your own company, like the TNA, you can make yourself champion, okay. Or if WCW thinks that was going to change things around for WCW, they tried it, it failed. Tony Khan, even at near 50, what is Jeff Jarrett, near 58? Gave him another chance to try to get one of their lead storylines in the quest for a championship. Once again, Jeff Jarrett doesn't produce ratings. That's the problem. So it was good just to see MJF mixing up with other people. You still had the wily old vet like Dustin, but then you had the people that are on his level right now, like a Hangman, in terms of roster spot. So that I liked with Dynamite. I also like the fact that they did jobber matches last night. Who was it? I think it was Megan Bain. If I'm getting that wrong, all apologies. But I think it was Megan Bain, this beast of a woman, comes out and just absolutely annihilates this female. I don't even know if they gave this other female a name. She just annihilated her. And then Samoa Joe was in a 6-man tag with, I believe, Hook was alongside him. And it was a 6-man tag, but 3 jobbers. I don't know if they ever gave them names or not. But they just annihilated these dudes. Couple minutes, it was done. Samoa was on the microphone, leaving a scathing promo. I believe that was on maybe Christian Cage, I want to say. Could be wrong. I'd rather see that than 3 other stars losing, looking up at the lights, because nobody benefits from that. Put jobbers in there. We need jobber matches. And you have feuds stem off of the jobber matches. Like, for instance, when Megan Bain took this woman out on her way up, Chris Statlander was coming to the ring for her matchup. And they just had a moment. So afterwards, Bain wanted to come back out to plant the seeds even more with Statlander. But it was stemmed off of a jobber match. You need jobber matches, guys. It's going to protect your talents from being 50-50 booked and never being able to reach their true potential, which in effect, it's subsequent. It is a detriment to the company itself if your talents are not living up to the potential, and that's because you're not allowing them to. Class with BC. That's just facts. Mic drop. But yeah, for Dynamite, man, I saw some good stuff. I did. There's still a long ways away. I understand, but man, just some of the way that some people talk about AEW, maybe it's just not your cup of coffee. But dude, they're roughly 5-6 years old. They'll find their groove, right? Vince McMahon, WWE, they went through ebbs and flows for decades. Okay, they hit a bump, all right. Just ripping them apart just because it's a narrative, an agenda. Maybe you get some clicks, some views. I don't know, but relax. They pull 6 to 650,000 in the rating. Okay, NXT is about 750. Why is nobody ripping NXT? They've been around longer than AEW. I've been saying this for weeks. I've been going out of my way to try to check out AEW because I'm hearing all this stuff in the community, and I'm like, it can't be that bad. No, it's not. Maybe it's just not your cup of coffee. It's only been around a few years. Maybe you thought it was, but it's not. It's not like the E. It's been around for decades, right? You know you love that. You know what it could be. You know what it should be, so you're going to be extra hard on it. With AEW, man, Tony Khan doesn't even know exactly yet. He's going to find out, man. Years will ebbs and flows. It's a roller coaster. Tony Khan will find it, hopefully. And maybe you'll flock back. Maybe it will be your cup of coffee. But the constant bashing of AEW, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It hasn't been around long enough for you to care that much about it, unless it's just become a shtick, a narrative, and an agenda. It's very odd to me. But that's my thoughts on NXT AEW. I was not able to see them in totality. But the big stories anyway, that's what I can tell you. That's my input. That's my amplified thoughts. Let's go to the big story here. Oh, well, real quick, let me just give you guys this story too. Just a little heads up. Tomorrow, SmackDown. Big change on the commentary team anyway. Joe Tessitore is scheduled to miss tomorrow night's SmackDown, as he will be working a special Valentine's Day boxing event on ESPN. So they kind of double booked Joe Tess. I think ESPN is going to win out here. As of this recording, WWE has not addressed the sitch or who will be replacing Tessitore. If this is indeed the case, the double booking will go in favor of ESPN. WWE has not addressed it as of this recording and has not said who will replace Tessitore. You have to think Corey Graves, but not so fast. It looks like he's still in the doghouse. I don't believe he even had a Rumble position, Corey Graves, correct? And they had all the commentators there. And then there was also a recent switch up with McAfee. Was it 2 Raws ago? One of the championship games. McAfee had to go to ESPN to cover the championship game, and Corey Graves was not I think they brought over Wade Barrett. So I'm just giving you guys some examples of where we thought Corey Graves was going to be the replacement, but Michael Cole is still pissed off at him. And looks like he's in the doghouse. We'll see if tomorrow night he is now out of the doghouse, but it does not look like Tessa Torre will be there. Corey Graves was doing some play-by-play beforehand, before he got DOS booted. So just a little heads up, guys. Looks like Joe Tess will miss it. We'll see if Corey Graves is back to the main roster just for 1 week, as he is now on NXT's three-man booth. And him and Booker T do not get along. Booker T told you that. Booker said, nope, we don't say anything to one another, and I think in the future we're going to end up having to talk about what he said, making it sound like NXT is this big demotion. So Booker's not happy, but it is a demotion. It's the third brand, man. It pulls about $750K. So yeah, the motion just doesn't have to be just pay. The motion is you took a big hit with your job, right? Your status was lowered. Nobody can tell you that the NXT's developmental, that's what Hunter calls it, is not in line with Raw and SmackDown, guys. Just in terms of people watching. Now, a lot less people are watching SmackDown and Raw, absolutely. But it's still near double, right? SmackDown's 1.4.5 to the 750 that NXT pulls. Nearly double that. So the exposure alone, that's a demotion. But Booker's not going to like that, I understand. But so that's just a weird dynamic, just knowing that they don't all get along. And Corey's the odd man out, the third wheel, but they try to make it work on Tuesday nights. We'll see if Corey Graves goes to the main roster tomorrow for 1 night only to replace Tess. Let's get into this TNA conversation. This is very interesting. WWE buying TNA. So, TNA releases several executives. That's the big headline as of this morning before this recording. This goes in with a string of moves that it looks like they're getting ready to sell, right? Anthem Sports Group, which is that's where TNA is under the umbrella of. The umbrella itself is Anthem Sports Group. So the moves they've been making, it's along the lines, in a roundabout way, not the same exact scenarios or setups, but in a roundabout way. These are the chess moves that were being made when WWE was in the process of getting offers and eventually selling to Endeavor, which they ended up doing. The moves that are being made here, WWE announces with TNA a joint announcement that they are now officially working together. They already were. This was a handshake deal that just sees a couple people come over here, a couple people will go over here if you want a person for your PLE. You don't need anything in paper for that. You just have a working relationship. Pro wrestling has been doing that for the longest time. Why would you all of a sudden, out of nowhere, have to file out all of this paperwork? We heard it was like 116 pages. Something like it was wild. What's the reasoning behind that? Like, why does WWE need to make sure that this is all in writing and that TNA is almost like a little package deal now? The little, long distant, but the little brother, right? Maybe a stepbrother. Then you start to see the moves of the management team swapping and even being let go, which is one of the headlines this morning, the biggest headline. TNA releases several executives, including, guys, the new president, Anthony Scione. Hopefully we're pronouncing that right, Anthony. Anthony, the new president, which just replaced Scott D'Amore, which was within the last year. So Anthony replaces Scott, and in less than a year, Anthony is now DOS booted as well. That was the president of the company. 2 separate presidents, both booted in a year. Also, Christy Hemme and Josh Matthews are released. Both somehow were executives in the company. Little Christy Hemme, didn't she just win like one of those Tough Enough type shows, something like that? Spent a cup of coffee in WWF, and I guess she made a career in TNA. Good for her, man. She was an executive? Because that's what they're saying. She was released as well. And Josh Matthews. If you were ever wondering why TNA never made it to the next level, now we know why. Joshua Matthews was an executive. That's all you need to know. As a commentator, it was like nails on a chalkboard. So Josh Matthews apparently was an exec backstage. I don't know. What are you thinking? Joshua Matthews. I think he was another dude that won like a Tough Enough or a runner-up. I don't even know if he won it. And he was in WWE for a cup of coffee, I think, on the broadcast team more than anything. And then he was just let go and found a home in TNA for over 10 years. Good for him. Can't play or hate. It's just, if you're running a company, I don't think you would want Joshua Matthews as an executive. But they were let go with the president. So they did bring in a new acting president by the name of Carlos Silva, who has a good background behind him. The third president in 1 year for TNA. So you're thinking, why all these changes? Why are all these executives getting that boot? Why are they bringing in this dude? Anthem Sports Group, from what we are hearing, is bringing in more people that they trust in these positions at this given time. Think about that phrase. It's exactly what Vincent Kennedy did right before he sold World Wrestling Entertainment, right? Even on the board of directors, he was bringing in his own people. That's what you do right before you sell. You change everything around. You bring in your people. You make sure that all your ducks are in a row for when that sale is made official. Not only is it done correctly because it is your people that you trust, but it's your people that are getting their wallets fattened up. You make sure all of your ducks are in a row, all of your people are there. It looks like that's exactly what TNA is doing. It's exactly what I told you Vincent Kennedy and WWE was doing before Endeavor took over and bought it. That is my amplified honesty with you guys, man. Everything that I have been seeing with TNA, all of these announcements, this relationship with WWE, it looks like they are being sold. The top runner looks to be WWE. I don't have confirmation on that, no. But if you're saying, hey, BC, you got the WWE thing right, you were the first one to say it many, 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 many months before it even happened. What do you think with TNA? I'm telling you, that's exactly what I'm seeing. This is WWE monopolizing. This is what they love to do. They want to monopolize the wrestling industry. And if they can just have AEW as the odd man out, music to Hunter's ears. But Endeavor will be on board if it's financially feasible and reasonable. They'll be on board. I don't think this is going to break the bank, and it allows Endeavor to monopolize. What do you think this whole thing with ID, the program, is, man? Why do you think WWE's logo has to be on all these wrestling schools? There's no need for that. No matter what school you come from, you go to the Performance Center and you have to sit there for a year, bare minimum, and learn the WWE way anyway. Why would your logo need to be on every freaking school? And if it's not, they won't give you a second look, not up front. So it's almost like if you're a school, you're forced to work with the WWE. They want to monopolize the industry. They're looking at TNA and they're like, dude, if we can get them, that's another notch on our belt. And then it's just it's a complete monopoly against now AEW. Do I think it's needed? Absolutely not. They don't care. You probably will not even see TNA, guys. It'll probably be done. It'll be like a WCW. They'll take some of the talents. They'll have the library. They'll bulk up their library. Right? Oh, we have the whole TNA. That's what it's really about. The library, some of the talents, their ego, their chest is out, bumps up their self-esteem. We bought. This would be Hunter's moment, right? Even though it's not his checkbook. But this is his Vince buying WCW moment, right? We have bought TNA. No, I don't think it's needed. But this is what WWE does. And if Endeavor thinks they can get this for a feasible and reasonable financial price, they absolutely will. And I don't think Anthem Sports Group is in it like they used to be. I don't know if they were ever truly in it to win it. I think if they saw how bad it was financially, and they're like, if we can stay afloat, it's a W. I don't know if they truly ever thought they could ever compete with WWE. But yes, I think this is these moves, man. I mean, just changing nonstop the presence and now working with WWE like this when it's obviously clearly benefiting WWE way more than it's going to TNA. For TNA, it just looks like you are now literally the long-distance stepbrother of World Wrestling Entertainment. There's nothing they get. I mean, the optics are so bad. Jordan Grace, the second her contract, she knew. Deuces, I'm over here. Joe Hendry, he goes over to have some moments in WWE's main roster or NXT. That's all the headlines are talking. Nobody's talking about it. It's unfortunate. I get it. But you think it's good because you're working with the big conglomerate. But is it really benefiting you? I think Anthem Sports now is ready to cash out. Get what money you can. But I just don't think TNA is going to be around after that, if that is the case. So again, there's no confirmation. But if you're asking, BC, you got the WWE thing right. What do you think it's looking like? It's looking like they are at least, bare minimum, setting themselves up into the position to sell, to at least hear offers and to do business. This is exactly how it started for WWE. And you start that by putting your ducks in a row. That's all I'll say about it, man. I already kind of went in circles. That's the big update, and it's huge. But it does look like WWE is eventually going to purchase TNA. It would be wild if they did sell, but not to WWE, right? I mean, if they just were not able to come to an agreement, I still think they're going to sell. Could you imagine if Tony Khan bought it? AEW? I guess they wouldn't have the partnership with WWE anymore. That would be wild, bro. News over on Hulk Hogan, the Hulk Hogan front. Let me tell you something, brother. So apparently there was like this meet and greet at like a bar or something. I have no idea. It's so stupid. I didn't even do my due diligence or read too much into it. But there's apparently this civil lawsuit, injury lawsuit against Hulk Hogan. So there was like a meet and greet or this big event that Hogan, not big, again, I think it was like a sports bar or something, but it was an event that Hogan was doing for his All-American beer. And there's a bunch of people in the bar, and he's throwing out some, he's not chucking them like snowballs at people's faces, but he's chucking beers out, right? And he's going 20, 30, 40, 50 feet maybe, chucking beers. People are catching them and guzzling, it's a good time. It's like in a baseball game. Right, they have these little signs if you're in the first several rows, like the whole first section, actually, the lower bowl of any stadium. There's a sign that says, always be alert of foul balls. But you should know that anyway. But just in case, there's signs. And if you go to a baseball game, you always want to be alert because at any moment that ball can come off that bat and go right in your dome piece. So same thing. I mean, if you see Hogan, which that's the star of the event, so you want to pay attention to Hogan. If he's chucking beers, just pay attention, right? So Hogan's chucking, and I guess this lady, I guess it was a female, she just got belted with a beer across the dome piece, and it left a big enough, like, not just mark, like a gash. So she got, like, actually injured. But there was no report filed like immediately after or anything like that. I think it said something like she didn't know exactly the severity of it, or the injury, or something like that. Or they also didn't know exactly who it was, so they couldn't really press any charge. They couldn't do anything, supposedly. And then like a day or two later, then all of a sudden, like they pinned it on Hogan, and, and now there's this lawsuit. So Hulk Hogan and All-American Beer is currently facing this lawsuit because this woman got hit in the dome piece with a beer that was allegedly thrown by Hulk Hogan. Again, he's just trying to chuck some of his beer out, have a good time, and this lady wasn't paying attention, got pelted. So Hogan can do no right these days, so I'm already seeing a lot of people just blame Hogan. Like, why would you throw beer, you idiot? Or maybe I'm old school. You show up to these things, you can't wait to fucking have beers chucked at you, and you're fucking diving over people to catch them. You're getting hit in the head, you're fucking bleeding. You're like, yeah, Sandman. Remember Sandman? Bash his head with the beers, and he would just start bleeding as he's guzzling the beers, because Sandman didn't give a shit. But this lady's not Sandman, so I don't know. Everybody's just so quick to try to get a quick buck. I don't know, man. Remember the person who showed up, I think it was like a WrestleMania, and literally got seats next to the stage. Pyro went off throughout the night. He went home and he filed a lawsuit because the pyro affected his hearing. And there was a real lawsuit, guys, WWE, in their pyro. And for many, many months, we couldn't get any pyro because of this damn law. There's one stupid fan that didn't realize he was going to a fucking WrestleMania and he was sitting next to a stage. Just because you got shitty ears, do not ruin it for the rest of us. That got thrown out in case you're wondering. I don't know how you guys feel about Hulk Hogan chucking beers. Again, he wasn't doing it like snowballs. He was just kind of flipping them up, you know what I mean? Like nothing. And I want to end it with a big, sticking with the legal status within WWE, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, guys. A lot of charges have been dropped in Vince McMahon's legal ongoings, and more are to be dropped. So Vince, by the end of the month, could be cleared of, if not all, most charges. There's several different lawsuits, guys. There's the Ring Boy lawsuits. There's the Janelle, and like one or two. There's a lot of stuff. But by the end of the month, Vince could be cleared of most, if not all, of these things. So not yet. But within the last 3 days, a lot has been dropped with Vincent Kennedy. So that's very telling. I kind of figured it would eventually anyway, because he is very good friends with the president. So no matter what, even if Vince was found of anything, I truly believe there was going to be ways where Vince was not going to, face any real time or anything like that. So, but it never even got to that point. It looks like they don't even want to. Yeah, they're trying to stay away from Vince. So maybe that does have something to do with the Trumpster. I don't know. But like a lot of stuff has been dropped with Vince. So I would not be shocked. Some of you guys are going to be like, it'll be cool to see him. A lot of you guys are going to be like, I don't want to hear this. But I would not be shocked if Vince was backstage by WrestleMania, if he was in Vegas. Backstage, charges dropped, and seeing everybody, because everybody still loves the dude. Obviously, Undertaker was watching the Super Bowl with him. John Cena still declares he's one of the best people he knows. He loves talking to him still. Hunter still goes to him for creative advice when he's in a jam by his own admission. So, I mean, you can act like people are not going to want him back in the walls, or that they don't talk about him or to him, and they're not friends with him. You can act that way, or you can just say, dude, get back here. Because that's what's going to happen. He's eventually coming back. The more these charges get dropped, Vince will be back. That's just what's going to happen. I'm not saying he's going to show up on TV, or you're going to hear no chance in hell, and he's going to start waddling down to the ring, tear up some quads. But I do think he's going to be backstage by WrestleMania, guys. Vince McMahon will be back because charges are being dropped left and right. So that's interesting news as well. I know some of you guys will welcome him back, and a lot of you guys are like, oh no, he's back. Listen, I'm just letting you know how it's looking. It looks like Vince will be back by Mania. He's already feeling comfortable enough to just be on the sidelines and rocking out at the Super Bowl. He's got his old look back, right? The old, the brownish with the gray hair, mustache is off. Hasn't been working out. He's got the Adam Cole body now. No workout regime. But it looks like Vince knows that he's about to return. So it's going to be interesting to see. That's what I got for you guys, man. Until next time, and there will be that next time 44 dive. That's a wrap. BC in the unit saying, check you. Salut! SmackDown tomorrow. I'll have the full review for you guys. Not long after. I don't know. Maybe that night or the next morning. But SmackDown, hopefully it's a good show. Hunter doesn't know what's going on. He's there with Linda McMahon trying to fucking get her into Trump's cabinet. So he's going to show up tomorrow night like, what do you guys got for me? Tozawa's doing the creative. All right, guys. Salute. Till next time.